We're back at the table with this week's Line Opinion panelist. Our next topic is a request from Diana Duran that a judge modify the terms of her sentence for misusing campaign funds at casinos around the state. Ms. Duran is required to make 4 public appearances a month to talk about why she had to resign from office last year. And she served time, of course, in jail in December of last year. And Tom, I'm curious your take on this because it was a plea deal.
It was.
A plea deal.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anybody trying to backtrack from a plea deal. It's interesting.
I don't know. I mean, you know, there's a lot of different psychology. You know, I'm sure psychology, psychologists will have a field day with this. Why don't you come to me first on this?
I know, right?
But, here's the deal, is that they agreed to it. I mean, you don't go in a month later and say, oh, you know what, this is really not what I thought it was going to be. You know, hello, you should have thought about that earlier. I've also heard from some folks where I guess she has been starting to do some talks. And they've been very well received, and her saying that she's being victimized as a result of going out and shamed and stuff. Well, you know what? That's I don't know if the government is really regulating what she's able to share, but she has a great opportunity to shape a message, to reinvent herself, and it doesn't sound like that she really wants to do that.
Thank you for saying that. I'm not here to pick on Ms. Duran, but I think that was my take as well. She's not embracing the moment and kind of going for it. Julian, your take on this? It's interesting to consider.
I mean, you've got a public official who gets a light sentence. She's charged with 65 crimes. She gets a plea deal where she pleads guilty to 6 of them. She could have gone to jail for 8.5 years. She goes to jail for 30 days. She's supposed to buy 6 newspaper advertisements. I haven't seen one of them yet. Has anyone? Certainly they haven't run in our newspaper.
That's right.
She's supposed to pay $28,000 in restitution, which is just a fraction of the money that she took and gambled away at a casino. And I think that it's really insulting, to the public of New Mexico that she's coming back with this, oh, I'm scared of the people on the internet. Some of her one-time supporters are some of the most notorious internet bullies out there. And I just feel like this argument is really thin.
What do you think,
This
Dee Dee?
is restorative justice. We rarely use restorative justice in our judicial system. And in this case, I think it was very appropriate. And I think the key factor here is that she is a public official, or she was a public official. And so she should be held to this standard, to educate the public and to set an example for other public officials.
Let me ask you this. If along the way there is an element of shaming, just as part and parcel of this, is that okay?
I served with Diana Duran, of course, and we had a vote one time in the Senate about whether public officials should have their pensions removed if they commit crimes in the course of their public service. Diana Duran voted for that. She spoke for that. And now she is in such denial that she doesn't even want to do the things that were part of her plea deal, which would set a good example and kind of add to the idea that public officials are not all bad, but they are sometimes caught up in situations that they can't control.
Fair enough. Yeah.
She's lost the opportunity. I agree with Tom, and looks like she's trying to be unaccountable for her and unapologetic for her actions.
She's getting no wiggle room. Janice Hall-Jones on Facebook. The comments are unbelievable. People are actually rather put off by this request. You know what I mean? They really feel very insulted by it, in a sense.
Well, and I agree. It was, in all things considered, a very light sentence. It could have been so much worse. But there is another side.
Please.
One is I don't know the direction from the judge as to what she is to talk about. Is she to talk about her gambling addiction or her actions as it compromised public trust? But those are the easy parts.
Right.
If she is supposed to go to schools and talk about it, not so easy. How many times did you get into the schools just to do the NCSL program? It's hard. They don't want you. So is there a problem of venue? But I really did find it kind of shocking that she said, it's a threat. I am, and the
part,
shaming
yeah, that was
part,
interesting.
you know, I'm sorry, but if you have done something wrong, then I hope you feel ashamed. I don't want to make you feel more ashamed,
Right.
but that sense of being ashamed is what makes you change your life.
It's very human. A lot of
Yes.
cultures do that, by the way.
And what
over
about
time,
the
you
community
know.
service piece?
That's right.
She's also asking to reduce her community service
right.
in half.
That's right.
There's got to be something out there that she could do to serve the community and qualify with the court for that. And trying to get out of that also just seems.
That was to take care of the grandkids, right? That was part of that line of reasoning.
Take the grandkids
Yeah.
with you to the community service.
Right, exactly.
There's a food pantry. There's something.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, sometimes, Tom, Garrity, these things are put out there to be a deterrent to others. Like there's a reason to parade people out there when they're guilty. I'm thinking of Charles Keating back in Arizona back in that day. If you remember, he was in an orange jumpsuit in chains in front of the cameras.
Keating Five.
The Keating Five. Basically as a deterrent. Say, you do this, this is going to be your lot.
Yeah.
Anything wrong with that? You know.
So let's localize it. New
Okay.
Mexico, okay? We have two former state treasurers, a former leader in the Senate. Now, I will say that all of them have gotten their due in their own form or fashion. I think Ms. Duran is probably seen it more than the others as far as more of a public spectacle, so to speak.
Right.
But then again, she was the one who made it more of a public spectacle. And so, you know, it's kind of like just rewards in a way.
Yeah. It's all about standing up and just facing it, isn't it, at the end of the day, when it's something like this. Now, I'd like to stop there and move on to one last topic this week. Julianne, the New Mexico Department of Health announced this week that it will release the names and more information about medical marijuana producers. This decision came after Santa Fe reporter and journalist Peter St. Cyr, a good friend of ours here in the New Mexico Foundation for Over in Government, sued the state. Now, why did your paper feel that this was worth the fight and the money to get that information to the public? You guys really stayed after
Just
this.
to kind of clear that up a little bit, Santa Fe reporter has sued the governor of New Mexico for other reasons, and we're embroiled in that and could go to trial in the spring. We actually just supported this lawsuit in that we are the outlet that Peter St. Cyr has published the vast majority of his medical cannabis program work in. But the Foundation for Open Government really took the risk on that and you know, stepped out, and attorney
said
Kip Purcell worked with that. So. It's really, in one way, it's really exciting that citizen and journalist advocacy can have this result where the Department of Health finally acknowledges that their rule violated the State Inspection of Public Records Act. You know, that's a huge victory. And you know, the reason why we believe that these records should be public is really about monitoring the system and about saying, you know, who gets permission to grow medical marijuana, who doesn't get it. You know, and we see in the case of Darren White, you know, former public safety, you know, secretary, who, you know, we discovered long before, Peter St. Cyr discovered long before these rules were set to change that, you know, Darren White was among applicants. You know, Darren's group got a license, you know, got permission to move forward with their license, where there are several people from Santa Fe, from our town, who also had what seemed like good ideas and good applications. They didn't get them.
Right.
We want to be able to talk about why.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting here is that the Department of Health does not appear ready to stand by the rule change. Peter put in a records request the day that they announced the rule change. Great, give us the records as soon as you change the rule. What did they come back with? Oh, your request is overly burdensome, and it's going to take us until April 9th to comply with it. So, you know, we can all watch and see if they're going to.
That's interesting. No
Work it
kidding.
over.
April 9th. No kidding. They can only build but so many applicants. I mean, April 9th.
Overly burdensome.
Right?
There were 86 applicants, and they gave out 23 licenses.
Yeah.
And
How interesting. Senator, I'm interested in your opinion about this, because I appreciate what Julianne just said. You know, we do need to know who's behind these things. Because the simple fact is, there is serious dough to be made. And when there's serious dough to be made, it's like people rush to it to fill that vacuum.
You know, I think we saw a front page article in Albuquerque about the for-profit companies headed by Duke Rodriguez. I think the Ultra Health is the name of one, and Evercare or Greenleaf is the name of another. These are for-profit companies that are now coming into the system that are managing the affairs and even growing some of the crops for the nonprofits that got the licenses from the state. So we do need to know about that. But I'm all in favor of the open records request, but I do have some fears for the producers because if the addresses are public information, and on the front page of the Journal there was a picture of the greenhouse in Bernalillo, I think it was, where they were going to be growing 600 plants, and that is a possibly dangerous situation.
Don't jewelry stores have the same problem?
Yes,
Yeah.
they do, and they have.
I'm not so convinced. I mean, with all due respect, I don't think that the address. Those who want to do bad things are going to find out where to go anyway, regardless. And they're not reading the newspaper, and they're not reading public notices. They're talking to their friends on the street to figure out where are we going to get all this stuff.
I acknowledge that. I mean, I acknowledge that this is a risk. But I think that they're going to have to take extra precautions. They're going to have to hire security. They're going to have to disguise their operations in some way.
There have been situations
because
in
they're
Colorado
illegal.
and Washington State surrounding this of crazy people who want to climb a fence, cut down 15 plants and throw them in their trunk and take off. It happens. It absolutely happens. Go ahead, Janice.
I would say, but we're ignoring the reality of what we have in Albuquerque already. We have lots of vacant houses, and all of a sudden there's a lot of energy drain, and they are growing plants. And those neighbors, if that's part of a real business, they need to know about that. They truly do, because that's a risk. But I want to go back to what Peter St. Cyr has been talking about, and it's often missed. When the legislature passed the medical marijuana bill, it was specifically to help patients, and it was set up as nonprofits so that no one would make an enterprise out of it.
That's right.
And that is completely
down the drain.
gone.
That's right.
Gone.
And is that because the state of New Mexico has poorly managed the implementation of the program?
You think?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So what do you think on that one?
Well, I think there's a number of programs started with behavioral health services that we could point to.
That's right.
That have not necessarily
That's
been
right.
state programs that have been managed with great effectiveness. First off, Peter St. Cyr, I'm glad to see that he's getting his due. He's a strong journalist, and he is an independent journalist, and he's a great guy.
Yeah, he stayed with it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't find a lot of that tenacity anymore. So I'm glad that he's getting recognition. I think that to Janice's point, I'm going to take issue a bit here. I don't think that anybody, in fact, maybe this is one thing we have with the disclosure of the addresses. I don't think anybody's in a residential neighborhood, running a commercial growing operation.
Well, at least not legally.
Not legally.
Not legally.
Yeah, illegally is a whole different
Yes.
issue and stuff. But I think that the transparency and putting everything out there is a good thing.
That's all the time we have. Join us online as we continue to discuss the impact of cutting off Medicaid funding to 15 behavioral health providers in 2013. I'm Gene Grant. Thanks for joining us this week for New Mexico in Focus. And as always, we appreciate your time and effort to stay informed and engaged. We'll see you next week in Focus. Get a preview of what's coming up on the next New Mexico in Focus. It's easy. Sign up for our weekly email at newmexicoinfocus.org.